fans, to another episode of BTR Boxing Podcast, The Life and Times of. And on today's episode, we've got former WBC light heavyweight champion of the world, Bad Chad Dawson. He's going to be talking about his career, starting out at middleweight, going up to super middleweight, becoming WBC champion at light heavyweight, fights with the likes of Adonis Stevenson, Andre Ward, Bernard Hopkins, Jean Pascal, some fantastic bouts in the ring from fantastic nights for him, and some lows as well, which we'll be talking about during the course of the episode. So, this is it, the next episode of The Life and Times of with Bad Chad Dawson. So Chad, it's an absolute pleasure to get you on, former WBC light heavyweight champion of the world. Thank you so much for coming on our Life and Times of series.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was looking forward to this. I know that, I've been around since I've been on the boxing scene, and I'm ready to, let everybody know what's going on with me.
So the concept of our Life and Times of really is to get more of a feel for you as a person, understand what's actually happened in your life throughout boxing. So I think really what I'd want to find out from you is taking it right back to the beginning and where it all started for you, when you was a kid. What was it that got you into the sport of boxing?
Well, actually, my father was a fighter. My father was a professional fighter. And, basically, I was born into it. My father would tell me stories about, when I was old enough, to put gloves on when I was like 2 or 3 years old. I would walk around with the gloves on, and if they took the gloves away from me, I would cry and cry until I got the gloves back. So I guess you could say I was pretty much born into it. It was like, that's all I know since I was a little kid. I always knew I wanted to be a professional fighter. From the time I was 6 years old, I told everybody that I was going to be a fighter. I got the opportunity to grow up through the sport of boxing through my father and through my brothers. So I had a good life, coming up, in the boxing game.
Can you remember the first time you went into a boxing gym?
Yeah, I was about. The first time I actually went to a boxing gym, I was about 8. About 8 years old.
What was the feeling like going in for the first time?
Oh, it was for me, I was excited. My father brought me and my 2 older brothers down to the gym. We got to sit down and watch. I was like, really done, watch guys sparring and things like that. So, we finally got to try it, and I had 2 older brothers at the time who were fighting, it was a great experience, like I couldn't wait to get to the gym. I got to the gym, and I continued. I started to work. I got better and better and better. By the time I was 12 years old, I had my first amateur fight. And from there, I just went full speed ahead. I had about close to 100 amateur fights. Close to 100 amateur fights. I had a record of, I think my record was, I was about 85-11 at the amateur.
So pretty successful amateur career.
Yeah, could have did more, but it was enough to get me to the point where I turned pro and I had a lot of success.
So going back to when you was fighting in the amateurs and what life was like back then, what was it like growing up in Hartsville, South Carolina? What was life like back then?
Oh, I really don't remember much about growing up in Hartsville, South Carolina. I moved to Connecticut when I was 7. So I really don't remember. I remember, my grandparents and things like that. Because my whole family was from South Carolina. So when I was 7, my family we moved up to Connecticut. And I really was raised here in Connecticut. But life back home in South Carolina, I can remember little glimpses of it. Growing up with my grandmother, I lived with my grandmother. It was life was pretty hard in the South. So my family moved up to Connecticut, for a better life.
What was it like in Connecticut growing up as you grow through your teenage years and you was in the gym and boxing? Was there any temptations outside of the ring that could have took you down a completely different path to where you went?
Definitely. It's always temptation, especially when you grew up in the inner city like me. I grew up in the inner city. A lot of gang violence, got a lot of a lot of different temptations, but, as a teenager, it's hard to, sometimes those temptations can become very hard to turn away from. But, I kept my head on the right path, and I kept my eyes on the prize. And the prize for me was, turning pro and becoming a world champion. It's always people who doubt what you can do. When people see you walking around, in the city, and they say, this kid, he thinks he's going to be a world champion. He's not. But I never let anybody deter me or turn me the wrong way. I always kept my feet on the ground, kept my head up high. I was able to, stay away from all the negative things. And, sometimes you get caught up in things like as a teenager, it's hard, had friends that were doing other things. And, I was able to resist those things, So, all in all, I was happy that, I made as far as I made it, and it's like really was a struggle for me to do what I did,
Yeah, like you said, you had 85 wins, 11 losses, amateur record, good amateur pedigree, and you turned professional back in 2001. What was that like when you first got into the ring for the very first time as a professional fighter and transitioning from that amateur style of fencing to the professional side of the sport?
Yeah, it's funny you said, because I always, people, my amateur friend, he always told me, I had a professional style since I was an amateur, I was never like, in the amateur, people think you got to go out there and work hard. You got to throw a lot of punches. And I was always a smart fighter. I was always the type of guy, I sit back and, I analyze guys. Like most of the time, I would take the first round off to throw the guy out. Second, third round, that's when I turn it up and I'll figure the guy out and I'll get the win. Everything like in the amateurs, you're bred to turn pro, but I always had that amateur style, and people always told me that. So when my transition from amateur to pro was pretty much easy for me because I always had that style, the professional style.
So when you turn professional, a lot of people in this day and age will remember you as being the light heavyweight champion, but I think a lot of people forget that you actually started your career as a middleweight.
Yeah. I was a big middleweight too. I was a real big middleweight. My first 17 fights were at middleweight. I was rated. Before I moved up to light heavyweight, I was rated by the WBC in the top 10. But unfortunately, I couldn't make the weight anymore. So, I think I fought one fight at 168, and then after that, I went straight to light heavyweight. Making 160 became hard, but then I was still growing. So when I had one fight at 168, and at that time, I think I was 21, 22 years old, and I was still growing, and eventually, I had to make the decision to move up to light heavyweight, and it worked out for the best.
So going back to when you was fighting at middleweight and super middleweight, which was obviously earlier on in your career, how difficult must it have been for a guy with your size and your frame to have made the weight? I bet there was times where you must have been literally starving yourself to make the weight.
Yeah. I think I would say for my last big fight at middleweight, it got real tough. My last fight at middleweight, I barely made the weight. I made the weight by the hair on my neck. So it was tough, But the middleweight, being in the middleweight division, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, and but when it was time for me to move up, my body felt out great. I fell right into the light heavyweight. And I was in Wales fighting on the Jeff Lacy's undercard when we made the decision to move up to light heavyweight because I was struggling to make 168. And I was still growing, and we made the decision the day before the fight. We made the decision to move up to light heavyweight, so we had to find another opponent, and we found another opponent who was at light heavyweight. And I won that fight, and then after that, we figured that was the best decision for me was to go to light heavyweight.
Well, that was interesting that you mentioned about the Jeff Lacy card because that was obviously the only time you ever fought over here in the UK on Joe Calzaghe and Jeff Lacy's undercard, which was obviously, like you say, after that the moving up side of things came pretty much immediately. So when you did move up, it wasn't long, was it, before you really started to get a taste of success? I think you had one fight, didn't you, at light heavyweight, and then you were straight in with Tomasz Adamek.
Yeah, I had one fight. No, I had the fight in Wales was my first fight at light heavyweight. After that, I fought Eric Harding at light heavyweight. And then my third fight at light heavyweight, I was fighting for world title against Tomasz Adamek.
So go back to the Tomasz Adamek fight, and that was obviously your first piece of world success, world honours. And Adamek at the time was 31-0. He was undefeated. He was this great Polish fighter who everybody was touting to go in there and do a number on you. Thinking back to what it was like at the time, what were your thoughts and feelings going into that fight? Did you get any nerves at all going into it in the build up to it?
No. You know what? Because I was young. I was so young. You know, like I tell my son all the time, you gotta have confidence in yourself. You gotta believe in yourself. Like you can't go into a fight with doubts. And that fight, I had no doubts. I knew that. You know, I had to watch Adamek. I saw his fights, and I knew I had the style to beat him. I knew that. Like everybody, nobody thought I would win that. Everybody thought I was in over my head. They were pushing me too fast, but I knew that I could beat him. I knew I could outbox him. I knew I knew I was, you know, if not stronger, just as strong as he was. And I knew I had the skill to offset what he was going to do. And that's what I did. That was the whole game plan.
So you got the victory, unanimous decision, become the world champion for the very first time in your career. What was that feeling like?
Oh, it was great. It was the best feeling in the world, you know, to accomplish something that, you know, you worked your whole life for, something that, you know, I always wanted to be a world champion from the time I remember being in the class, you know, when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, you know, when the teacher would ask you, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are your inspiration? What do you want to do with your life? And I always, you know, will write, I want to be a professional fighter. And they look at me like what? Like a professional fighter? That's what you want to be? And yeah, that's what I want to be. I want to be a world champion. I want to be a professional fighter. I want to be a world champion. Everybody thought that was crazy. You know, 10, 15 years later, you know, I was a world champion. So like, you know, there's nothing that you can do. I mean, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. And that's what I did. I put my mind to it. You know, I started boxing when I was, you know, probably 6 years old. My father started working with me and my brothers. You know, when I was 8 or 9, we went to the gym. You know, I started working with my amateur trainer. You know, so like I said, like everything was playing. You know, it was God's plan for me.
So you defended that title twice before you moved and went on to fight Glenn Johnson, picking up a unanimous decision over Glenn. Glenn obviously was a very experienced fighter at this point. I think he'd had, pushing 60 fights at this point that you fought him. Now, he always fluctuated sort of between super middleweight and light heavyweight throughout a lot of his career. What was it like sharing the ring with him? Because I know you shared the ring with him twice. Yeah.
Oh, the first fight, you know, I tell everybody this to the day that Glenn Johnson was he was that opponent that took my skill level, my heart, and my determination to another level. You know, had I never had that fight against Glenn Johnson in the first fight, I don't think my career would have panned out the way it did, because in that fight I had to dig down deep, and I had to fight my butt off for that fight. He pulled the best out of me.
So do you think fighting Glenn Johnson brought I think you just said it there, your skill level up another notch from where it was after beating Adamek? You went in with Johnson, and then your skill level just goes up even more before you go in further. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, to this day, I tell everybody, you know, people ask for the tough fight. Even my 5 losses I've got, I still tell everybody that the Glenn Johnson fight was my toughest fight. As far as me having to dig down deep, you know. I mean, when you got somebody like Glenn Johnson, a guy who just keeps pushing forward, you know, physically strong, you know, determined, and, you know, just a gritty fighter, you know, a low-down gritty fighter, you know, and that fight, he brought the best out of me, you know. I think the world got to see me dig down deep, and you know, he hurt me, I think, like 2 or 3 times in that fight, you know, and I came back because, you know, something about a fighter, you know, like when I won the world title against Tomasz Adamek, you know, that took my confidence to another level. You know, I went into the Glenn Johnson fight with the confidence and the determination, and then when the way the fight panned out was, you know, I knew I won on the scorecard, because the whole plan for the fight was for me to go out there and and get the first 6 or 7 rounds and put him in the bag. That way, he'll be playing catch up for the whole fight. So he had to catch up. But unfortunately, the last 6, 7 rounds, the last 6 or 5 or 6 rounds, I think I won 3 of those. He might have got 3 rounds, but it's just all about determination and heart, and I showed that fight.
And then you had to vacate the WBC title before you went in back-to-back with Antonio Tarver. What actually happened with that? Was it a decision you had to make? Was you being forced to fight a mandatory? What actually happened with that?
What happened with that was I wanted the Tarver fight so bad. I wanted that name on my resume. So obviously, of course, it was no brainer. I just give up the WBC title to fight for the IBF and IBO, which he held at that time. So it was no brainer. I give up one world title to pick up 2. So and I really wanted Antonio Tarver's name on my resume. So we went after the Tarver fight and won those world titles. Then went into the rematch with Tarver, and I beat him again. And I knew that Tarver had the name. He had just a couple years later, coming off the win against Roy Jones Jr. He was in the movie. He was in the Rocky movie.
Yeah.
So he had a big name at the time. So that I wanted that name on my resume.
So when you beat Antonio Tarver, at the time, Joe Calzaghe had moved up to light heavyweight and he'd fought Roy Jones in what evidently was his last fight of his career. But at the time, there was a lot of rumours circulating that you two would actually meet at some point.
Yeah, and that's the fight we were looking for. We wanted that fight, but unfortunately, I take my hat up to Joe Calzaghe because he did the right thing. It was nothing else for him to prove. He was just coming off of a win over Roy Jones Jr., a win over Bernard Hopkins. So I think it was a good move for him to retire at that time. But would I have loved it? I would have loved to have shared the ring with him, and got to fight with him. I know it would have been a tough fight, but like I said, at that time of my career, it was all about putting names on my resume. He had one of the names that I wanted to put on my resume, but unfortunately, he chose to retire.
He did, and then you had the rematch, like you say, with Glenn Johnson. You fought Glenn Johnson again, defended your titles, beat him by unanimous decision, and then we move on to the fight with Jean Pascal, who had obviously moved up a weight from super middleweight. He'd fought Carl Froch the previous year, and then he moved up to light heavyweight, and you guys were contesting the IBO and WBC light heavyweight titles. What, in your words, and your experience and your recollection, what actually happened in that fight?
In that fight, I was just talking. We were talking about that fight the other day with my trainer. We were talking about that fight. I just had a slow start. I started slow. I didn't start out as fast as I should have started. Being that I was the guy coming in from another country, I was pretty much in enemy territory. I had a slow start. He got off to a great start. He got the first. I think he might have got the first 4 or 5 rounds in the bag off the rip. But when I finally got going, I knew that I was stronger than he was. I was faster than he was, and eventually I would have stopped him. But unfortunately, the headbutt happened, and the ref chose to stop the fight. And I didn't, I wish the ref did stop the fight because I don't think the cut was that bad enough where he had to stop the fight. But he did, But you learn from your mistakes, and I definitely learned a lot in that fight. More so about going into enemy territory and what you have to do when you go into enemy territory.
And then we move on to more infamous names on your record. Mr. Bernard Hopkins, 2 fights with Bernard Hopkins, which were interesting to say the least. First one obviously was a no contest, which it was a strange one, weren't it? What happened there?
It is funny because it's funny. People say I committed a foul. It was no foul. Going into the first fight, we had already studied him for pretty much most of his career. I watched him, and we knew that he had a lot of savvy tricks and moves, with the headbutting. He liked to jump on fighters' back and push him down, and hold on to and push the neck down and things like that. So we prepared for it, and sure enough, he jumped on my back at one time in the fight, and I just gave him a little shoulder shrug. And he put on this big act, and he jumped in and said he dislocated his shoulder and things like that. Which everybody knew that there was no dislocation of the shoulder. He wasn't hurt. He found a way out of the fight. But we got the fight again. And I got the victory. That's all I really have to say about that. But I respected Bernard Hopkins at the time. Before that, I respected him. After that, not so much because of the way that he handled the whole situation. He wasn't looking for he tried to talk his way out of the rematch. But unfortunately, the WBC mandated that he had to fight me again. So we fought again, and I got the victory. I don't really have much to say about the whole thing with the him jumping on my back and me pushing him off. People say it was an MMA move and things like that. But it's funny to me. But like I said, I respected him early on in his career for what he's done. I still respect what he's done, but when it comes to that situation, I really don't have much respect for him.
When you talk about the fights with him, going back to when you were talking about the fights with Johnson and how much sharing the ring with Glenn had brought your skill level up, did you feel going into the fights with Hopkins and contesting in both them bouts with Hopkins that you took something away from that give you another sort of feather to your cap, so to speak, in terms of skills and ring craftsmanship and the way you was able to pick up things? Did you pick anything up from him and was able to use it in fights down the line?
Not really. You should get better after every victory, right? You should get better after, especially when you're there with a legend like Bernard Hopkins. You would think that you would get better, but I think that fight, the two fights with Bernard Hopkins were more like sideshows, with the tactics, with the headbutting. I left that fight with two cuts over each side of my eyes. It was never really I think in that fight he was more so survival mode. I think he just wanted to get through the fight. He wasn't looking to win the fight. And it showed. And that's what he did. I think he was just there to just make it out of the fight. He didn't really want to stand there and fight with me. Pretty much the whole fight, he just, like I said, I think he was more so in survival mode.
So then we move on, and you took an opportunity to boil yourself back down to super middleweight to fight Andre Ward for the WBA and WBC titles.
Big mistake. It was a mistake.
So what was it that made that decision for you? Was it the fact that it was the opportunity to fight for 2 world titles in that way, or was it they offered you enough money to come calling?
I think with the fact, most so at the time, I was looking at most so at the money. I wasn't really most of the money, and I thought that I could make 168 comfortably. I was weighing in. I think I weighed in for the second B-Hop fight at like 173 or 174. So I actually thought that it wouldn't be that big of a deal to go down 4 or 5 pounds, but I was wrong. I think we flew to California. We landed in Oakland. Got off the plane. We got to a scale. When we got to the scale was like, I think I was 178 or something like that. It was tough for me to make the weight. We got down to I think like 70 the night before the weigh-in, and it was tough. The next day, we got up in the morning, got the 2 pounds, got down to 168, and then the night of the fight, I really wasn't feeling good. Didn't feel good at all, but I was already there, and it wasn't like I could go to anybody and be like, "Oh, look, man, I can't. I don't feel good. I'm not gonna be able to do this." I went out there. I gave it my best. Unfortunately, I was in there with a very skilled fighter, and he took advantage of what was in front of him, which was a weak Chad Dawson. I could barely, I tell you this much. I don't remember most of that fight. I can't even remember. I was gone. I wasn't even there. But I take nothing away from Andre Ward. I wish we could have did it at light heavyweight. I take nothing away from him. He's a great fighter. Still is a great fighter in my book. Still one of the best in my book. And like I said, I wish I had an opportunity to do it at light heavyweight. But things happen. It happens, and it's over.
There was a lot of reports at the time of, and you can shed some light on this. At the time, the fight was happening. There was a lot of reports around social media and other outlets across the world that you'd actually been knocked out in sparring by Edison Miranda. Was that true or not?
No, I wasn't knocked out. That's totally false. I was dropped. He dropped me. I was not knocked out. He dropped me, and he was sparring. He dropped me. I got right back up. I was knocked out. Those rumors are false. If I was knocked out in sparring, I wouldn't have took the fight. I would have canceled the fight. But he dropped me in sparring. That is true. I was dropped in sparring, not knocked out.
So we move on then, and you go back up to the light heavyweight division and fight Adonis Stevenson. Now, obviously Stevenson, you're fighting in Canada, in his backyard, and you're going in against a guy who was, again, he was 20-1 at the time you fought him. Before going into that fight with Stevenson, what did you know about him as a fighter? How much did you know of him, and did you actually see any of his fights prior to getting in the ring with him?
I didn't know. I didn't know about him. I didn't know much about him. I didn't know anything about him. After the Ward fight, I think about maybe a month after the Ward fight. A month after the Ward fight, we got the call about the fight. ABO wanted to do Dawson versus Stevenson. I told them that I wasn't interested in fighting. I told them that I didn't want to take the fight right now because I was just coming off the loss of Andre Ward. I told at the time my manager that I want to fight. He came back a couple of days later and told me ABO said if I didn't take the fight, that they would take me off the network, and I had to take the fight. So I took the fight, and things happened the way it happened. Coming off of the fight with Ward, I should have took more time off instead of jumping right back in with somebody like Adonis Stevenson. But like I said, I didn't know much about him. I knew he was a big puncher. I trained. I'm not going to take anything away from Stevenson, but I trained my butt off for that fight. I got in great shape. But things happen, it's boxing and things happen. And he caught me with a shot that I didn't see. I didn't even see that punch coming at all. He caught me with a good shot. I went down. I beat the count. The refs stopped the fight. And he was the new world champion. I lost my title. And from there, things happened, I got another victory after that, then another loss, and that was pretty much like the downfall of my career at that time. I'm not gonna say it was the downfall of my career because I'm only 36 and I still got a lot more to get to the sport. If I didn't think I did, I wouldn't be getting back in the ring on next week, which will be my return to the ring, and I'm looking forward to it.
Will you be going back to light heavyweight, or is it a light heavyweight bout, or is it a cruiserweight bout? Have you moved up?
Yeah, the contract is at 180. I could still make light heavyweight, but it's not a title fight. It's my first fight back, so there's no reason for me to get down to 175. So the fight will be at 180.
Okay, so have you still got hunger and desire and ambition then to try and pursue potentially going in with another world level fighter, another world class fighter? Because there's quite a lot of them, and a lot of new guys on the scene now. Yeah.
I've been watching. I've been sitting back and I've been watching what's going on. I'm like I said, I'm a fan of boxing. I love boxing. I'm not just somebody who just participates in fights. I watch boxing. My family, we're a boxing family. We watch all the fights. We sit down together and watch fights, and I know what's going on. I know who's who. I know who has what. And my whole motivation right now is, I want to fight for another world title. I'm going to get myself back in position to fight for another world title. And all I got to do, is go back to what I used to, and that's, stay in the gym. Right now my head's in a good place. The last 5 years I've been through a lot. As far as my family, not being in the ring, not getting fights, and taking fights on short notice, like the fight against Farfara. I took that fight on, I think, like a 5 week notice. I took that fight. I knew I could beat him, and I beat him. 9 to 10 rounds. Fortunately, I didn't get him in that great shape that, I could have finished the fight strong, but like I said, I still have the skill. My skills level is still there. I'm still strong. I'm still physically in good shape, and I'm ready to prove that to everybody this year and going into 2020.
So let's talk a little bit about a few other things then, aside from obviously your comeback. You opened a gym last year, your own gym. Is that still going? Are you still training kids in the gym?
Yeah. I still got the gym. I have a few trainers who are working with me, who works with the kids. Because right now my whole thing right now is me getting myself back to where I need to be. So I really don't have time to work with kids right now. So I still have my gym. I've still got kids that train at my gym. I have other trainers that are working with them. Of course they want to work with me, but right now I have to focus on myself and focus on, my family and getting back to where I need to be so that I can provide for my family and do what I have to do.
Today's episode of BTR Boxing Podcast is sponsored by Bear Attack Boxing. Check them out on social media, on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and check out their website www.bearattackboxing.co.uk. They've got another great product that's just been released, the Bear Attack Boxing Master 1 Focus Pads. They are the ideal pads for perfecting your boxing skills, for getting your shots accurate and fast. With the shock absorbent pad, your hands and wrists will be protected. The hook and loop strap makes it easy to secure your hands in the pads. So go and check out that new product, which is only $24.99 at www.bearattackboxing.co.uk. Social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, find them, Bear Attack Boxing. So the decision to open a gym and invest money into opening a gym, was that partly because you want to still be involved in boxing after boxing and giving kids somewhere to go and get them off the streets and teach them discipline and pass your knowledge on?
Definitely. Look, I tell everybody like this. I'm a kid who wasn't supposed to make it. Where I come from, people don't use it. I'm the first world champion to come out of my city. First one, and why not be able to? Why shouldn't I? Pass my knowledge down to another kid so that they can have the same opportunities I have. So my whole motivation for that was, to teach kids, to show kids that, just because people say you can't do something, you can still do it. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have the heart and determination to go in there and want it. And that's my whole motivation. I got my son I got two kids right now that are boxing. My oldest son who's 16, Chad Jr., and I have a 10-year-old Tiger Dawson who's fighting. So, I want to show them. And my whole motivation right now, to show them how, and they watch me and they see Dad get up at 6 in the morning and do his road work. They see Dad in the gym in the afternoon. They see Dad do his 3 workouts a day. So, that's just me shaping them and molding them to become world champions.
So even though you've not been actively fighting for a little while, you're still in that routine and you're still in that mindset, aren't you?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, look, like I said, I've been through a lot over the course of the last 5 years. I took last fight I took 4 losses. 4 losses. And in the last couple of years, I haven't been in the ring. Not getting phone calls for fights. People just, I guess, like, people think my light dimmed out, but I'm here to show everybody that my light is still bright, and I'm still looking forward to getting back in there on June 29th. I'm looking forward to getting back in there and showing everybody that, I'm going to put myself back in position to fight for another world title, and I'm going to win another world title. And just to prove everybody wrong. People think I'm done. People think I'm just a shell of myself, but I'm not. Things happen in life. Things happen in boxing. And boxing is just one of those sports that you can't take lightly. I want to show everybody that I still got the heart, the hunger, and determination.
Is there anyone in particular in the division at the moment that you would ideally like to go in the ring with? So you've got the likes of obviously Kovalev and you've got the likes of Dmitry Bivol really sort of headlining the front of the light heavyweight division. Are they two of the names that you'd like to be trying to get yourself in there with?
Definitely. Those Kovalev, we're around the same age. Kovalev, he lost the war 2 times. I mean, I think any one of these guys can be beat at any time. Me at my best, head right, mentally, physically, I believe I can give them all for their money. I'm not saying that, I can go in there and just dominate these guys because I know that won't happen. But I can go out there and I can give them a run for their money, possibly win a fight. I'm not going to say possibly. I think I can beat these guys. I know I can beat these guys. I think that the 2 years I've been off has been good for my body and good for my mental and physically. Like I've been telling everybody for the last couple of weeks, like it's been years since I felt the way I feel right now. Like I feel good. I'm getting up in the morning. I'm doing my road work. I'm working out 3 times a day. Those are the things I stopped doing. Like after the loss to Ward, things happen. I just lost the hunger for it. I lived down in Vegas for about 3 years after that. And I made the decision to come back home to Connecticut. And my whole motivation right now is just my family. My kids. Like I said, I got 2 kids that are fighting right now, and I want to show them. The right way to do things. All my mistakes I've made, I can teach them the right way and show them not to make the same mistakes I've made. Like I said, man, my whole motivation right now is just my family.
You've certainly had some great teachers in the past. Obviously,
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather Sr. being one, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad being the other. You trained a little bit of time with the great Emmanuel Stewart as well, and all them guys combined, years and sort of breadth of knowledge. What was it like having these guys giving you the advice, telling you, how to do certain things in the gym and passing you all them years of knowledge onto yourself?
It was great. I worked with so many good trainers. Like I think I probably have worked with some of the best fighters and some of the best trainers in the sport throughout my career, and it was great. Learning from Eddie, learning from Emmanuel Stewart, Floyd Senior. If you look at the guys that I've worked with, you can pretty much say that I worked with the best. A little bit of those guys are still instilled in me. Like Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, who's a great trainer to me, but also more like a father figure to me too. So, and still is a father figure to me. Still calls me to the day. We still talk. We still chat. After Murillo, my longtime strength and conditioning trainer, we still talk. We still chat. He always checks on me, make sure I'm still, in good health, mentally, physically. I talked to him the other day. He's legit. People, they're just still there for me. Like Eddie and Axel. So I love those guys. They always check on me.
Who's training you at the moment for your comeback fight?
I made a decision to go back to the roots. I'm working with my longtime amateur trainer. He started my pro career when I turned pro. We were together. He's been my trainer since I was 10 until I was about 20 years old. My amateur trainer. When I turned pro, he was with me. I think we had about 4 or 5 fights together. Amateur. As a pro, we're 7-0. I worked with him 2 of my last 5 fights, and I'm still undefeated together. So it was no brainer for me to go back with him, the guy who knows me best, the guy who taught me everything I know, the guy who got me to the point where I was ready to turn pro and to become a world champion. So it was only right that I go back to him, just to go back to the drawing board, the rekindle the things that I used to do, and I think this was a great move for me to finish my career with him.
So you mentioned earlier on that you and your family are a boxing family. You're not just a guy that participates in the sport. You're also a guy that really enjoys watching the sport as well. At the moment, then, who's impressing you out there?
Right now, definitely got Earl Spence, Terence Crawford. Those guys. My kids love those guys. I always tell them those are the guys you need to watch. Guys like Terence Crawford, skills on another level, like Lomachenko, guys with skill, pure skill, Lomachenko, you got Who else is out there? You got at the light heavyweight division. You got, like you said, you got a lot of European champions right now whose skill levels are on another level. So, I mean, we watch boxing, and I try to just teach them and show them the guys to watch, people they should watch. Like, and I think the best fighter right now to date to me is Terrence Crawford. Skills on another level, and I think that Terrence Crawford right now is the guy to watch. And the best guy in the sport right now, the best fighter in the sport right now.
And what about the current heavyweight situation? That seems to have really exploded over the past 18 months.
Yeah, man. Look, I tell my kids, you can't judge a book by its cover, man. You never go in there, you never underestimate your opponent. What happened with Anthony Joshua? I'm a big fan. Still am a big fan of Anthony Joshua. I still think he's the best skilled heavyweight out there. But I think he took Ruiz a little too lightly. And he came out with the victory, and now we got a new kingpin in the heavyweight division. Deontay Wilder's out there, who else is out there? You got
Tyson Fury.
Just for the other minute. You got I don't know, I can't think of his name right now. Just for the other night, the heavyweight.
Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, yeah. Skills on another level. I think the other night, that was the best performance I ever seen from him the other night. Even though it was, I think, 2 or 3 rounds, his skill level is on another level. So, I mean, like I said, we watch boxing. I know what's going on around boxing, and I always like to pick up things from fighters. Guys like Tyson Fury, I picked up a lot from him the other night. As far as like the head movement, and I've never seen a heavyweight move the way he moves. And I'm very impressed with him.
And it was just something that you mentioned a little bit earlier about Anthony Joshua and him overlooking Ruiz. And the question I've got really for you is, in your career, was there ever a point where you got to the pinnacle of the sport, and I'm not suggesting you ever did overlook anybody, but was there that much temptation around, like with advertising brands and people telling you what you've got to wear every day when you walk out the door and where you've got to be every hour to do different media commitments? Did you ever come across a situation like that or a period of time like that in your career?
Yeah, because like for me it was like, I wanted to be a fighter since I could remember. So like, I never boxed. Like, I told me and my friend had a talk the other day, like about a month ago we were talking, and he was asking me, you don't miss being famous. You don't miss, like, I told him, like, I never wanted to be famous. Boxing just happened to be something that I was good at, something that I was able to feed my family off of, something that I was able to make some money and live good. I never got into the sport to be famous. There were times where, I got tired of going to flying cross country, flying to Canada to go to press conferences, flying here to do a press conference, flying there, missing time with my family, missing time with my wife, kids. Like my oldest son, who's 15 right now, half of his life, I wasn't there because I was always traveling. I was always in training camp. I was always doing this. I was always doing that. So, like now, since I've been off the last, 2 years, I got to spend time with my kids. I got to, get to know my oldest son a little better, and there's no better feeling in the world than, me being able to sit down and talk with my son and him, and I see the difference in him, from him when he started boxing, which he's only been boxing for about a year and a half now. He's getting so good. He's picking it up so fast, and that's why I boxed. That's why I got into boxing. I didn't get into boxing to be famous. Of course, I was good enough. I made some money, and I did it more so for the money, and not to be famous. I just wanted to live a good life and take care of my family, and that's what I did. I'm ashamed of nothing I did in my career. My losses, I'm not ashamed of my losses. You learn from your losses, you learn from your mistakes. And all I could do was just guide my sons the right way and make sure they don't make the same mistakes I made.
I was just going to say the exact same thing then about you and your son's relationship, but being in boxing. Given the experience you've had over the course since your professional career started in 2001, you've been able to pick up so many different things and be in so many different situations along the way. Surely that knowledge is going to be able to give to your son to give him the head start that not a lot of people get in boxing, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have the benefit of having a former world champion as the dad.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he hears that all the time. He hears it all the time. I know he's probably pretty tired of hearing it, because people tell him that all the time. Like, they see us out in the morning, we get up, we do our road work together. We're in the gym, I'm working with him. People always tell him, yeah, you know who your dad is? Yeah, you're learning from the best. You're learning from the best. But I don't want our relationship to be based on, on boxing, because honestly, like, he's 16 now, so we really didn't, like I said, I wasn't there early on in his career, because I was always traveling early on in his life. He was, we just now got like on the same page where we're sitting down, we're talking, and honestly, boxing has brought me and him closer together, because we didn't really speak that much, early, like 2 or 3 years ago, we didn't really talk that much. He went to his mother for everything, and I thought it was more so due to me because of the problems, the things that I was going through with my career. I wasn't satisfied with the way my career ended out, so, like I said, I was in a dark place, the last few years. I wasn't myself. I kind of like took my frustrations out on my family and my kids. Me not talking to them, me not, I hid myself away from the world. I stayed home. I didn't want to go. I didn't go to the basketball games. I didn't go to the baseball games, because I was ashamed of what people would say about me. I didn't want people looking at me, people talking to me. But finally, last couple of years, I started to wake up, and I started to see what's more important in life, and that's my family, my wife, and my kids. That's what means the most to me. And if I could win another world title, good. But at the end of the day, it's all about my family, me having a good relationship with my boys, me having a good relationship with my wife, me being on good terms with my family, and and taking care of them and doing the right thing. So, I mean, yeah, it's a plus that he's boxing. It's a good thing that he's boxing. He gets some discipline from it. But like I said, boxing has brought me and him both closer together.
And it's quite a story that you've gone through what a lot of people go through in life, which is situations where nothing doesn't always go the way they want it to go, and it puts them in that position mentally. And what you're just saying there about frustrations and things, it happens every single day to different people around the world, and it's good that you openly talk. It's good that you're openly talking about it and admitting it, because that is the way for people to move forward in the career, is to understand what they need to do to move forward. And you've talked about your son, and you've talked about the relationship it's built with your son through boxing now, and going into the sort of the latter stage of your career, the comeback, the final roll of the dice, so to speak. At this point in time, you're in a position where you don't essentially need boxing anymore, but with a name like yours, boxing probably could still use you.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this: if the rest of my career doesn't go the way I planned, so what? I'm a 3-time world champion. There's nothing else left for me to do. I've had my time. I was on top of the light heavyweight division for 5 years straight. I was the best guy in the division in the world. Like, I have nothing to hang my hat on. I'm not ashamed. 3 or 4 years ago, I was ashamed to go out because I didn't want people. Oh, what happened to this guy? This guy. Oh man, he blew all that money. He did this. He did that. But that doesn't define my career. That doesn't define who I am as a person. That doesn't define who I am as a man. That doesn't take away from what I've done throughout my career. Not many people could say they're a 3-time world champion. Not many people could say they were the best in the division. I mean, I can say that. If I never make another dollar boxing, I still got my family. I still got my 4 little boys. I still got my wife. Those are the people that never turned their back on me and never will turn their back on me. And that's love to me. And like I said, like you said, boxing has brought me and my son closer together, and I thank boxing for that. If boxing didn't do anything for me, it did that for me. My son, he did boxing. He loves boxing. We hang out more. He's with me every day. We're in the gym together. So boxing, that's what boxing did for me. That's what boxing has done for me.
At one point as well, Chad, you were ranked in the top 10 of the pound for pound best fighters in the world. Something else that another accolade really to add to the list of being a three-time world champion as well. And it's great to hear the mentality you've got, even though you're deciding to come back and having one more final roll of that dice. It's good that you've got that mentality, whereas, okay, I'll go back and what will be, and there's nothing for you to be ashamed of, whether you go in there with a big guy like Kovalev or a Bivol or someone of that nature, and maybe you come up short in that fight. Hopefully that won't happen, and hopefully we'll get another story out of it.
It's like I'm not ashamed of anything. People are gonna tell me that I'm done. I'll never be the same fighter again. I've heard that already. People tell me I'm a shell of myself. I'll never be that guy I used to be, and I may not ever get back to that point again. But if I give up, if I don't try again, then I failed. Like I said, I'm 36 years old. I should still be out there competing. I still should be fighting the best. And it took me time away from the sport. The last 2 years, it took me that time to realize and wake up and see that life ain't over. You can't hang your head on your defeat. You can't hang your head on the things you lost in life. The things I've lost in life is over. It's done. I can't get it back. But I can go out there and give it one more shot and give it one more push. And that's my whole mindset right now, just giving it one more shot. If I could get back to another world title, that's great. If I go out there my next fight and I lose my next fight and I don't do good, it's fine. It's fine. I still got a beautiful family. I still got my kids. I still got my wife. I still have a nice house. I still, my life ain't over. My life is not over. I'm gonna live my life through my kids. I'm gonna live my life through my wife. I'm gonna live the rest of my life the best way I can. If I never ever fight again, I'm fine, and I'm straight with that. I'm okay with that.
I'll tell you what, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, discussing your career from where it all began to where we are now, to this final roll of the dice, to the mental struggles that you've had to endure as a result of the latter end of your career. And it's been really refreshing to hear such a positive mental attitude to boxing, and there's a lot of people that don't always come out of it the right side of boxing, but regardless of what happens for you now in this latter end of the career, you've come out of it the other side. You've got everything you want, and it's, like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah, I can say this. I'm more wiser now than I was when I was 25 or 26 years old. If I was as wise as I am now, then my career would have been better. But it's never too late. It's never too late to wake up. It's never too late to learn. I'm 36. I'll be 30 next month. I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to be a father. I'm still learning how to be a husband. And you get better. You get better. The more time you put into something, the better the results. So I've started spending time with my 16-year-old son. I started spending more time with him, catering to his needs and what he wants, and trying to guide him to where he needs to be. And those are the things that I cherish in life. Being able to sit with my son, who's 16 now. He'll be a grown man in the next couple of years. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be for long. I'm not going to be able to tell him he's going to do what he wants to do anyway. But I got to get him to that point where he's ready, to go in there. He wants to turn pro when he's 18, but I tell him all the time that's not logic. You turn pro when you're ready to turn pro. And life is life, and things happen, and I hope he can learn through me and see what I've been through, and take his skill level and take his talent to another level, further than I did. And if he doesn't, I tell him all the time, if you don't ever become me, people are going to expect you to be me, be better than me, or just as good as me. And if you're not, so what? Just give it a shot and try. That's it. That's all you got to do.
And what sort of involvement will you have in his career when he decides to turn professional? Will you just be advising him, or will you be in the corner? How will it work?
No, I don't. Right now, my brother's now. My brother, who he's a pretty good amateur fighter. He never turned pro, but he has a good amateur record. He's been working. He knows about boxing, so he's working with my brother right now. My brother's training him. You know, I know what boxing can do to a family, to a father and son relationship. I know what it can do, so I don't want that. So I stay out of it. I let my brother train them. I advise them. I critique things. You know, I do things like that. Like, I talk to him more so like a mentor. You know, I don't want to get in his way and step on his toes. I don't want to overshadow him, so I let my brother train him.
Yeah, I can't argue with that because there's not very many successful father-son partnerships in
No,
boxing.
it's not. And that's one thing. That's one thing I learned about boxing. You know, me growing up in boxing and seeing, you know, the guys who work with their father and see what it does to the relationship. I don't want our relationship to be based on, you know, the bad things that he's doing. The thing, you know, he's not doing this right. He's not doing that right. You got to do this. I don't want our relationship to be based on that. I want him to go out there and have fun doing what he loves to do, not always have to impress me or try to impress me, because that's not what it's about.
So once boxing's all said and done in terms of this final roll of the dice for you with your career, have you got a plan for life after boxing? Are you going to go into full-time coaching then at that point?
Yeah, pretty much. I'll probably go to full-time coaching, but I'm not ready to think about that right now. You know, I still got my eyes on the prize right now. I still want to go out and fight for one more world title. Really, what I want to do, you know, at the last stage of my career, I want to travel. You know, I want to come up back to Wales and fight. I want to go to Africa and fight. I want to fight in different places. You know, I want to see the world. I want to travel and I know that boxing can get me there to the point where, you know, I can travel and have fun boxing. You know, and finish my career strong. If I don't finish my career strong, like I said, if I go out there June 29th and don't get the victory, so what? I tried, and that's my whole mindset right now. Just giving it one more push, and I'm going to give it the best push that I can.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I hope we get to see you on the big stage one more time in your career, and hopefully we might get to see you with one more moment of glory as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And June 29th, look out for me, you know, to get the win and put myself back in a position to contend for another world title.
Well, guys, that is the end of the episode of The Life and Times of. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to Chad Dawson there, former 3-time light heavyweight champion of the world, WBC, IBF and IBO. Fought the likes of Bernard Hopkins, Antonio Tarver, Tomasz Adamek, Adonis Stevenson, Andre Ward, and you heard all about them fights in that episode. It was really good to get an insight into them and into his career as well, and what life was like for him growing up, and also about his ambitions to come back and try and go for one more world title shot in the current light heavyweight scene. So it will be really interesting to see how that pans out and whether he does end up fighting one of the big guys currently on the scene, the likes of Sergey Kovalev, potentially Anthony Yarde if he beats Kovalev, and then we've got the likes of Dmitry Bivol, we've got our own Callum Johnson. There's plenty of great fighters on the light heavyweight scene at the moment, and I'm really interested to see whether Chad has got something left, some fire left in the belly to go on and fight for a world title just that one more time. But it was also interesting to hear about what it's like for a fighter when the boxing career doesn't always plan out the way you want it to. So he was talking about his last couple of fights before he went on a hiatus and the mental struggles, the way it affected him and his family, and you know, he was quite open and honest about all that, and I really enjoyed listening to him tell me the story about how that had affected him. And you know, there's a lot of people out there that do struggle with mental health in certain points of their life, and I will take this opportunity to say, if you ever need to speak to somebody, always get in contact with one of your friends. And I am offering myself up if anybody ever wants to chat about anything and they feel like it's something that they need a bit of advice on, you can always hit me up on Twitter at I am Bastow, I am BASTOW. I'm on Facebook at Sean Bastow, SEAN Bastow. Find me on there if you really need to have a chat and talk about things. I've struggled with it myself in the past, and I've overcame certain situations, so I'm more than happy to help people out where they need it. So it was really great to chat about his career, and I really enjoyed it, not just as a podcaster but as a fan first and foremost. It was an honour to talk to him. I really hope you guys have enjoyed the episode, and if you have, please go and leave us a rating and review, in particular on Apple Podcasts. If you use Apple Podcasts, if you're a Podbean user and you listen on Podbean, why are you not subscribing yet? Get subscribing on Podbean as well. We're on all other available podcasting apps, including Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Player FM, TuneIn. You can find the podcast everywhere. If you want to follow us on social media to check out all our latest episodes and throwback episodes, it's at BTR Boxing Pod on Twitter and Facebook, BTR Boxing Podcast. Well, that's it, fight fans. This was the life and times of Bad Chad Dawson.
A dream is